The Secrets of Technology is brought to you by the StarQuest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit sqpn.com/give. You're listening to The Secrets of Technology. Hi, I'm Dom Bettinelli, and you're listening to The Secrets of Technology, where we discuss the technology news that's important to you from a uniquely Catholic point of view. And joining me today on the panel is Thomas Sanaro. Hey, Thomas.
Hey, Dom. It's good to be here.
I want to tell everyone about another show that's on the network that you are sure to enjoy. In fact, it's actually probably one of the best things we do, which is Pray Station Portable. It's the Liturgy of the Hours, the Divine Office of the Church, that Jeff Vista has been doing for more than a decade, probably one of the longest running podcasts ever, and it's a labor of love, and there are so many hundreds and thousands of people who listen to it every day and in prayer. So definitely check it out if you want a new prayer experience. That's an old prayer experience. So check it out at sqpn.com/PSP. Or wherever fine podcasts are found. It's also in every podcast directory. So I want to start off with a little bit of feedback from our recent episode that we did with Jeff Geerling, which was such a great episode. Jeff's such a nice guy, such a good guy, so knowledgeable about tech. So I want to read this email we got from Ted, who writes, I really enjoyed this week's podcast. It was great hearing Father Corey's voice on the show. I bought a Raspberry Pi about a year ago and have not done much with it. I have subscribed to Jeff's YouTube channel, and maybe I can get some ideas on some projects that I can do with the Pi. It was interesting that photogrammetry was brought up during the show. This term is being used much more these days, especially now that drones are being used quite often, and the images are being processed, and often the term photogrammetry is used to describe the processing. Please excuse me while I get out my soapbox. This is Ted. This is Secrets of Tech. It's a safe space for all us geeks and nerds, so that's not a problem. He continues. The process that Jeff described is structure from motion (SFM), not photogrammetry. I do not fault Jeff or anyone else for using that term because SFM uses photogrammetric image algorithms to process the images, and the term photogrammetry is always thrown around on many cable shows, Skinwalker Ranch included. Yes, that's Secrets of Skinwalker Ranch. It's one of my secret guilty pleasures. Anyway, when they throw a drone up in the sky and process the images, they'll refer to the processing as photogrammetry. The definition of photogrammetry is, quote, the art and science using photography in surveying and mapping to measure distances between objects, end quote. Pause to get off of soapbox. That's what Ted wrote. So why am I so tuned into this? I've been making a living as a photogrammetrist since the Reagan administration in Dom's home state. That's Massachusetts to everyone. We use both photogrammetry and SFM daily in our business, along with quite a bit of LiDAR. It has been a fun ride watching the evolution of technology in the business. Excellent. Well,
That's really cool.
Thanks, Ted. I love hearing from people who are experts in their fields to kind of give us a hint and a glimpse into that. That's one of the things I really love about this show, and we're going to try to do a little more of, is bring in people who can give us a glimpse into these fascinating little worlds.
Right. So. Yeah, it's amazing to think of all of the places that our faith touches in the technology sphere, right? So just because you're a religious person doesn't mean that you're not really deep into the technological sphere of things.
Yeah.
And so, that and this show has done a great job of, kind of digging into the depths of, some of the questions that you may have if you're in one of those technology positions, but you don't have anybody to talk to necessarily.
Right. Exactly. And, yeah, we've got so many good topics coming up. I just as I'm thinking about it, like that really apply to for like that. So be sure to stay subscribed, folks, because we've got a lot of good stuff like that coming. So let's move on to our main topic, and it is the summer doldrums. There's always tech news going on these days, but there's not always how do I put it? Sometimes we want to broaden the definition of tech, and it's not always about microchips and that sort of thing. Sometimes, a lot of technology is much simpler but no less amazing and innovative. And so that's all a big preamble to saying we're going back camping again, and we're going to talk about more tech for camping because both Thomas and I are big into camping. We both love camping. Our kids are in scouts and that sort of thing. And so we talked about tech for camping way back in April of 2022 in episode 161. I'll have a link in the show notes for you. And we talked about a lot of different aspects of tech you can bring on camping, some that's more traditionally technical or electronic or that sort of thing. But we wanted to talk about some more things that are technological for camping. And so we came back. And so we're going to talk about some more things, a lot of stuff, the bigger, more basic items, I think is the way I'd address it. We're going to talk about things like backpacks and sleeping bags, clothing, things for water, that sort of stuff. And so let's start with the important thing. When we think of camping, apart from tents, which we talked about last time, probably the first thing we think of is a backpack. What do you think of for when someone asks, how do I pick a backpack? What is the first thing that you're going to suggest to them?
What are you doing? I'm gonna start asking questions because it's really dependent. And there's some shortcut rules to looking for a good backpack. And I'm gonna be honest here because when I was in high school and looking for a backpack, there was so much to consider.
Oh yeah.
Do you want an external frame or an internal frame or a hybrid frame or do you want this kind of bag? It's none of that is really important anymore because the whole industry has settled on essentially this sort of hybridized frame that everybody uses. So the great thing is if the last time you shopped for a bag was in the 90s, none of that stuff is really that significant anymore.
Right.
So it's much easier today. And when it comes down to it, the things you need to consider are how long your trip is and what kind of gear you like to carry. And so there's two basic philosophies. One is I'm a minimalist. I want as little as I can to carry with me, and I am going to go lightweight as much as I can and find things on the trail that I'm going to use or have just a very little amount of food and gear on me at any given time. And that's great. My big warning there is make sure that you always have enough, because the worst thing is when you're out on a trip and someone has gone minimalist camping, which essentially means that they're just borrowing from everyone.
Yes. Yes, we all know that guy.
Oh yeah. And then the other direction is, okay, well, I've got gear and I need to know how much is too much, right? So I don't want to take everything with me the whole time. And so a good rule of thumb, and this is what I tell everybody when they're looking for backpacks, a good rule of thumb is 10 to 15 liters of gear space per day that you're going to be out. So if you're going to go out for one day, 10 liters is probably going to do you. If you're going to be overnighting somewhere, you're probably going to need closer to that 15 range. And if you start getting to the point where you're hiking out and then hiking back, and it's going to take you 2 days to do that whole system, you're looking at 20 to 35 liters worth of a bag. And then for longer trips than that, you're going to need more like a 35 to 45 liter bag. And that's the cap, because once you get to that point, you're just reusing stuff, right? So if you're wondering, like, how do people hike the Appalachian Trail if they're going to be out there and they need, like a 60 liter bag for the, no. Once you get to about 35, 40 liters, that's it. And then you're just reusing stuff at that point.
Right. And having stuff shipped to drop points along the trail for
exactly.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a really good point. For most people, most people are going to camp, weekend camping, 2 nights, maybe 3 nights. And you're going to need maybe a 20 to 30 liter bag would be more than sufficient for that sort of thing. Especially if you're car camping, and so you're not having to go far from your car. That's a really good rule of thumb. I would say other things to consider is make sure it's sized for you. There are bags for men and bags for women, because we have different sized torsos, and the distribution of the musculature is different between men and women, and for kids also need a right size bag, but you can get bags that grow with them, especially they're out there. And I wouldn't spend a lot on a bag for kids. they will outgrow them.
Or
I've seen
put
that.
holes in them.
Oh, yeah, right, exactly.
That'll happen too.
Yep. The only other thing I would think of is just look at how the straps. Like I'm a big guy. If you ever see me in any of our videos, I'm a big dude, so I need a big belt, like a long belt. I don't, let's just say I need a long belt. So you may need to consider that, like, because what you want is to be able to have not just the straps, but you want the belt and a sternum strap to kind of distribute the weight of the bag. If you have the belt on correctly and the straps and the sternum strap, a pack holding 30 pounds that's not that it doesn't feel that bad. You can really carry a lot. And
you can carry it for a long time too. That's the thing, is like, if you've ever used a backpack that's heavy, it hurts your shoulders after a while, but a good hiking bag, you're not going to feel that weight. In fact, when you take the bag off at your campsite, you should feel like, oh wow, I did not realize I was carrying this much stuff.
Right.
And it, not that you're like, not that your back hurts, but just that you feel the weight of the bag suddenly, and it's like, wow, that's a ton of gear, and I didn't realize that I was using all of that.
Sometimes you feel like you can leap into a tree because it's so light. And that's partly because you're not just carrying it on your shoulders, you're carrying it on your waist, on your hips. I mean, and that's really designed to carry a lot of weight in general. So you want to distribute it evenly. And these backpacks, like you mentioned, backpacks today are so well designed, so good about that. So if you get one that you can, and in some ways I say, if you get an REI around you or an outdoor store, go try them on, just to see. I mean, I've bought packs online, sight unseen, but you're taking a risk there. But it's worked out for me so far. But I kind of know what I'm looking for.
Right.
But if you can go try one on, that's great.
And if you can get a class that teaches you how to pack a backpack too,
yes,
that makes a huge difference, because if you don't know how to distribute the weight properly inside of your bag and you're going for a long hike, it can cause you a lot of discomfort, because you'll have the heavier stuff up top and out back, and that's going to cause you to lean.
Yep.
And so if you learn to pack it where everything's, the heavy stuff's tight into your back, and then you get the lighter stuff outside of there. And there's just lots of little rules that are really helpful. And the guys that have been doing it for years, and they'll tell you all these things, and they love to sit down and talk to you about this stuff.
Yeah,
so find one.
Yes, this is what we're doing. We get to sit down and talk to you about this stuff. And yeah, and also what you need to bring. That's the other thing is the sure sign of a novice camper is that guy or gal who's got way more stuff than they need for the trip. So help someone. I mean, and that's fine, if you for your first few trips, but find someone who will help you discern, what do I need to bring? What am I not going to need? So that's good. Yeah. And the pockets are so important. Like the distribution of pockets on a backpack are really like, what am I going to put in each pocket, and always know where that is. And like things like which pocket on my backpack will always have my first aid kit, so that when you need it, you know where it is without even thinking about it. That sort of thing.
And clips to hang stuff from too, because we're going to get to water bottles later. And I am a huge proponent of not relying on collapsible water bottles or, bags that are in your backpack, because they're just too hard to use. Yeah. And so a good solid metal water bottle that you can hang on your bag somewhere is invaluable, but you need that spot to hang it from.
Yes, exactly. So that's backpacks. You could probably expect to spend anywhere from for a good pack. Like, there are a lot of knockoff packs on Amazon that are under $100, but I would say for most people, somewhere between $100 and $200. $200 in the high end, probably $100 to $150. You're probably gonna do pretty well. This stuff in that'll be in that range that'll work for most people for weekend camping, that sort of thing.
And it's going to last you a good long time, especially if you weatherproof it, which we're going to talk about some weather stuff in a minute. Yep. If you take good care of it, it is going to take good care of you for a long time. So it's not like you're going to be buying one every season. Yeah. And sometimes, like, that's one thing, actually, packs can come with rain
covers. So like it
Mhm.
stows away, and then when it starts raining, you pull it out and you cover your bag, and it keeps your stuff dry, but it also keeps your pack, from getting soaked. And frankly, even when it's not raining, you could keep it from getting all busted up on trees and rocks and stuff like that. Trail wear, like tear like that.
And
Awesome.
I'll make one more caveat before we go anywhere else with this.
Yep.
Do not buy the most expensive gear. Buy the right gear for you.
Right.
And I cannot stress that enough, because with camping and with outdoor gear, when you're paying a lot of money for something, it's because it's highly specialized and uses materials that are intended for very, very extreme conditions.
Right.
So, when we get into sleeping bags next, don't buy the most expensive sleeping bag, because it's going to be too much sleeping bag. You only need, like, I'm camping in Florida. I don't need a 15
You don't need a winter bag.
sleeping bag, It's just not. And so I don't need to worry about the down or synthetic thing. Really, what I need is just a very lightweight, something that I can roll up really easily. In fact, a lot of times I'll just take a fleece blanket and I'm good. Fleece blanket and a mat, and I'm fine. So, get only what you need. Don't think that just because you're buying something more expensive, it's better than the thing that that works for your conditions.
That's right. And that's a really good point, is buy gear for where you're going to camp as well. If I live in the northern temperate zone, so we have hot summers, it's 90 degrees today. We have cold winters. It gets down to, 15 below at times, or zero anyway, in the winter. And I know not a lot of people camp like that, but scouts do. So you're gonna want, to get gear for that. And so let's talk about sleeping bags. In that case, where I'm a serious camper, I have a couple different bags. I have a winter bag. I have a summer bag. But there's a couple things to consider with bags. And you mentioned one of them, which is temperature rating. Mm-hmm. Bags are rated for different temperatures. It's just like clothes. I wear summer clothes in the summer and I wear winter clothes in the winter. You want a summer bag in the summer and a winter bag in the winter. And sleeping bags are temperature rated by different temperature ranges. So a summer bag is rated basically like 30 degrees and above. Mm-hmm. A winter bag is anything that's rated 15 degrees and below. Now 30 doesn't feel like summer, but it's just a number. And frankly, in the summer, I like you said, I'm often sleeping on top of the bag more than I'm in the bag, but that's the way it is. So that's one thing, is the temperature rating. And you want to think about what kinds of weather am I going to be camping? Am I only going to camp in the summer? Am I going to camp maybe in the spring or fall? So maybe I want a 3-season bag if I'm going to do a lot of fall and spring camping. Mm-hmm. That sort of thing. So that's one thing to keep in mind.
Yeah, I think for the weathering, if you get a 15 to 30, that's typically there's like 3 ratings. There's 30 plus, there's 15 to 30, and then there's 15, and that's kind of the ranges that you'll find the sleeping bags in. If you get a 15 to 30, for the most part, it's going to cover
most of the
all
year.
of the spaces that you need. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because anything above 30, you'll end up sleeping half in, half out on it, really.
Right.
And then that 15 to 30 range is a sweet spot, though, because that'll get you into some good cold climates and still cover you, so you're not going to be shivering in the middle of the night or trying to find something else to cover up with.
Right.
And then another thing to think about with sleeping bags is the ease of getting into and out of them.
Yeah.
Especially if you're sharing a tent, because you're going to want to sleep. If you're doing things right, and you're relying on your sleeping bag for temperature, you want to sleep with as little clothing on as you possibly can, because the more clothing you have on, the less you're letting the sleeping bag do its job, where it's creating a small environment of your body heat that's keeping you warm. And so when you have more clothes on, it's harder for the sleeping bag to do that quickly enough for it to mean anything for you. So what you want to do is you want to take off as much clothing as you can when you slide into the sleeping bag, and that's how it keeps you warm. Consider that when you're in a shared environment, you might be conscious of like getting in and out of the sleeping bag and putting clothes on at the same time.
Right. That's a good point. One thing to keep aware of too is the shape of the bag. They come in different shapes. There's classic rectangular. There's mummy, which usually has like a hood that comes up over your head. And then there's some variations. There's like a double bag, which is like a it's a square or bigger rectangle, say for like a couple, for like you and your spouse. And then there's like a semi-rectangular, which is sort of a cross between a rectangular and a mummy. Some people don't like mummy bags because it's too cramped, it's too close. They get claustrophobic. There's not a lot of room for your feet, and the hood up over your head. Although in the winter, those will tend to be the lower temp bags, and in the winter, that feels really good to be nice and snug in that.
Yeah.
But
it warms up fast. That's like I was saying, it uses your body heat. It warms up really quickly.
Right. That said, I have for my summer, 3-season bag is a lightweight semi-rectangular. So I get a little more room for my feet. I like to move around when I sleep, and I'm a roller. So if I'm in a mummy bag, it's just too constricting for me. And plus I'm like I said, I'm a big guy, so I have wide shoulders. And so most mummy bags don't give me the space I want. So I have a semi-rectangular bag. And then I have a colder bag. It's not exactly a winter bag, but it's actually rectangular, but it's really thick and heavy. I mean, this is a big bag. This is a car camping bag because it's too big to even like connect to my backpack. It's gigantic, but it's for real. Those really cold nights. I did a camp out with the Scouts a couple springs ago, where in February, where it got down to the teens overnight, and I was so cold, and I swore I would never be that cold again sleeping. And so
you fixed it.
I fixed it. But so those are a couple of things to think about. It's like the mummy bag is a snugger fit, but it'll be lighter and it'll be warmer. I think that's the idea.
Yeah, I prefer the mummy bags just because I like the tight fit after day. But I sleep like a vampire. I'm like arms crossed and like laying down flat.
Yeah.
I barely move at all. So it makes sense for me. But like you said, if you like leg room, they definitely do feel a little constraining.
Yeah, and that's the thing is think about how you sleep. I mean, that's a consideration. Yeah. And then there's like one other thing to think about is like what's it insulated with? There's synthetic insulation and there's down. Some people are allergic to down, so if you're allergic to down, that's out. But down is really good in cold, dry weather, but it's really bad when it gets wet. Synthetic dries really fast, and works well even when it's damp, and it's cheaper. So,
It also consider where you're going to use it, because it comes back to, what you're going to be doing with it. If you're car camping, go with the synthetic almost all the time, just because they tend to be bigger. They tend to be a little heavier. They're always cheaper.
Yes.
But they do have a similar rating. So the only difference between a down and a synthetic is the weight and the compactness that you can get in packing it. So if you are a hiking camper, if you're going to be going and doing some survival camping or getting really far out and you need a warm bag that packs down really well, you're going to want to spend a little bit more money on those down bags if you can.
One thing to think about too, if you get a down bag or even a synthetic bag, compression sacks are really big now. They used to, the old sleeping bags, you'd roll them up and then you'd tie them off, or you'd slide them into a sleeve. But now bags, like a lot of these bags, down bags, synthetic insulation bags, you stuff them into a bag, into another sack, and then you often will have compression straps that really get it really tiny and compact, so that it doesn't take up much room. But some bags, some of the more expensive ones, I think, but even some reasonably priced ones, also come with other like bigger mesh bags that don't compress the sleeping bag, because keeping the bag compressed all the time, like in storage between camping trips, can be bad for it. It won't loft as much as it used to when it was new, and loft is the whole point. It insulates by having air as an insulator in between the bits of the insulation. So something to keep in mind if your bag doesn't come with a storage bag that's not a compression bag, you can think about maybe getting one. And we'll talk about some bags and sacks later.
Definitely.
Right. So that's sleeping bags. Clothing is a big issue. There's lots of technical clothing for hiking and camping. I don't know. Like, again, this is another one of those things. If you get to a certain level, you'll know you'll need it. But there are some things you're going to need when you're camping. The first thing you're going to need is something for your feet. You don't go camping or hiking in sandals. I don't care how nice your Tevas are or whatever. You don't go, because unless you don't like your toes.
I'm going to disagree with you, and I'm going to disagree with you in 2 minutes. But generally, I agree with the principle.
There are
if
situations.
You're a hiker,
okay,
there are some situations where it's beneficial, and for that you need to think about what you're getting, because you want a hiking sandal in those situations. So if you're in the Pacific Northwest,
okay,
and you're tromping through wet underbrush that the whole time, and that's your camping experience, you don't want a pair of heavy boots, because they're going to get waterlogged, and you're going to get blisters, and you're going to get rot, and it's going to be awful. You're going to have a bad time.
Right. I'm thinking from my situation, so that's a good point. So
yep. So Northeast, that's boots, definitely the way to go.
Right. And the nice thing is there are different kinds of boots now. Now there are the traditional boots with the high ankle to protect your ankle, with big lugs on the bottom. Whatever you want. You want to have nice, good grip on the bottom. Nice, good lugs to that's what that's called on the bottom of your shoe to get some good grip. But they make hiking shoes that are sleeker. They look kind of like sneakers almost, bulkier sneakers than regular, but you'll want them to be waterproof. If you think you're going to be tromping through a wet area or even a tick-laden area, this is a good idea. You can get gaiters, hiking gaiters that they strap around your ankle and your pant leg, keeps the little bugs from crawling up there. You know what I mean? You don't want that to happen. So that's another aspect too. But you want some nice, even sneakers is better than nothing, I suppose. But you want a nice hiking shoe, but you'll be happy. And to go with that, you're going to want some hiking socks. And in fact, you probably want 2 layers. One, a sock that's a wicking, so that it pulls moisture away from your foot, and then something that's more absorbent and a little bit insulated, depending on the season. You don't want too insulated, that pulls the moisture into it. That way you're pulling moisture away from your foot, pulling sweat away from your foot, so you don't get blisters. Nobody wants blisters. But your socks are as important as your shoe in that case.
Absolutely. And if you are a person who needs them, compression socks are excellent. They are a great choice here, because a lot of them will be that wicking material. They stay close to your skin, but they also keep the blood flow going. And that's a really don't think you're ever too young for compression socks.
Right. Especially when you're out hiking and working hard. Yeah, definitely. So, you mentioned the hiking sandals, and hiking sandals are different from your regular around town sandals. They have the nice, good grip lugs on the bottom, so that if you're crossing a stream or walking across slippery ground, you're going to get a better tread. What's the word? You're going to get a better grip on the ground, and that's good. You're going to want to have layers of clothing as well. So again, if in the summer, you're going to want to keep it as light as possible, but even in the fall or the spring, you're going to want to have several layers, at least on the top. As the weather gets colder, you're going to want long underwear on the bottom, underneath some decent pants. Not jeans if you can help it, because jeans, if they get wet, they stay wet and they get heavy and cold, and that's not good.
And they stay that way.
And they stay that way. And
then they get stiff, and that's awful.
Stiff, yeah.
Yeah, they just start standing up on their own while you're hiking. That's not good.
Yes. So long underwear and some nice hiking pants if you can get them, and then several layers up top. You can get an undershirt, a regular shirt, a light shell that maybe you can, so that you can take things off or put them on as you get colder or warmer. That's what you want to be thinking of. So you want to have several layers.
And as you're layering too, look for pieces of clothing that vent. So they sell shirts that have an open back where they're stitched across the back, and the back is open, and it's got netting in there to prevent bugs from getting in. But and Velcro so that it can seal itself shut if it is cold. But while you're hiking, you get hot and you get sweaty, and just being able to open up that vent on the back to be able to breathe a little bit can be a huge deal. That's one of my main requirements in looking for shirts that I wear while hiking, is that venting option.
Oh yeah, it's huge. And and then like a rain shell, like a rain jacket, just something to put on. It rains. It just it rains everywhere. So unless you're in the desert Southwest, you're gonna need a rain jacket, and for most hiking. So definitely do that. And if you're in a cold weather area, cold weather coats, but most people will have a parka or something. And again, unless you're way at the top level of the hiking technical, expert hiking, you're probably just going to wear whatever winter coat you have, and that's probably sufficient if you need it.
And again, same principle here. Don't buy the super expensive thing when what you need is just a functional thing that's going to get you through a couple of days. Because when they make the super expensive stuff, they're making it for people that are hiking the Appalachian Trail, and they're going to be out there for weeks at a time. So it's super durable. It's made of, high quality materials. It's made of weatherproofing stuff that's going to last for that whole time. And if you're just going to use it a couple of weekends at a year, you don't need to spend that much money on it.
Right. I want to tell you, my favorite camping pants are the Scout uniform pants.
They're great.
They're for one thing, they have the zip off legs, so you can convert them from shorts to pants, and they're durable and they're strong. They stand up. I mean, they have to stand up to 12 and 13-year-old boys. You know what I mean? They're designed for that, and they're comfortable, and they fit a wide range of sizes and shapes. Yeah, definitely. Like if you go to the Scout store online, there's a lot of camping gear that you can get through them. Not all of it's as inexpensive as it should be, but it's all there. But definitely check out the Scout camping pants. I really can't say enough about them. They're really good. One of the things we wanted to talk about was how to treat our clothes to prepare for camping, because we want to we don't just want to take them out of the drawer or take them out of the package and go with them. They need something at first.
Right. Yeah, and you want to look at weatherproofing the stuff that you have, especially your shoes, but also any of the jackets or the top layers that you're going to have as you're going out. And I like Kiwi Camp Dry. It is a great product. It's a wash-in most of the time. It's a wash-in material that you coat your clothes with it while you put them in the wash, and it soaks into those clothes so that they have that protective layer to them. And the really important thing here is that it's not just a layer that makes them waterproof, but it makes them semi-porous. So it coats them in a way that doesn't make them stiff or non-breathable. And so you want to be really careful when you're picking which type of stuff you're using to make sure that it marks itself out as semi-porous, because that's what's going to really work for you. Because if you've ever used a rain poncho, you know that you need it to breathe because the rain ponchos are awful, because you end up as wet as you would have from the rain because you've sweated all over yourself. Oh yeah, that is so true. I've had that a few ponchos like that where it's just like, oh my gosh, it's a sauna inside it. Yeah, it's terrible. Well, the other thing to think about too is you want to have insect repellent in many cases. And one of the best insect repellents for longer term, this is for not for your skin, but for your gear, clothes, tents, your backpacks even, is permethrin. That's the chemical that's used. And the one I'm going to link to is from Sawyer Products. That's one I've used. And I have this big pump bottle of it, and I got it last year before my kids went to summer camp, and I sprayed their tent with it, sprayed their shirts and stuff, and it lasts through several washes of the clothes, and then you just reapply it maybe once a season, depending on how often you're using your gear, and it works really well at keeping the bugs off of your clothes, off of your tent, inside your tent, that sort of thing. So you want to keep that in mind, keep something like that, depending on how bad the bugs are where you are. But frankly, every place has bad bugs. Oh yeah, you're not going to escape that. Yeah, yeah. That's almost a requirement, just because. And this is the thing, is when it comes back to it, you want to make your experience outside as pleasant as possible. Now, that's not to say you want it to be, motel quality or hotel quality. We're not glamping here. Yeah. But you don't want to be miserable, because you're not going to do it again if you're miserable. Right. Or to put it another way, if you want to go camping and you have to convince someone else to go with you, you don't want them to be miserable. So that's a good point. True.
Let's move on to talk about drinking water. We need water when we're out camping. And there are several, we mentioned a little bit, but there are several different things that you can carry water in. One of the popular ones you see people use, like, runners will have especially, are hydration bladders. And these are basically bags, plastic bags with a hose that comes out of it that you then hang. It goes in a bag like your backpack, and then the hose comes and hangs off of your suspension, your straps, and it has a little bite valve on the end of it. And whenever you want to drink water, you just put it in your mouth, suck some water out, you're good to go. You don't have to reach around, look for your can, your water bottle, whatever. Yeah, there are some downsides to hydration bladders. They're hard to clean. And cleaning is really important. Mold grows in this stuff very easily, so you got to make sure they get cleaned and dried. And it goes in your bag with your stuff, and if it leaks, all your stuff is wet. So there's that. Then there are the different water bottles, or plastic bottles, or metal bottles, or collapsible bottles. You mentioned you like a metal bottle. I do too. I much prefer metal. In fact, I prefer stainless steel uninsulated bottles. And I get the Clean Canteen bottle, and it has no plastic on it, because then I can just if I need to, I can put that bottle right in the fire to heat it up and boil the water. Like, say I need to boil water to as a last ditch to purify it, or something like that. Or I'm just making coffee or whatever. So that's what I like to use. How about you?
I like titanium. I go for titanium bottles, and this is one area where I'm willing to splurge, because that titanium bottle is going to last you forever, and it's going to weigh about a quarter as much as a steel bottle.
Right.
So that's why those are my go-to. I will typically buy titanium cook gear as well, just because, same reason, it collapses down really well. It's going to last forever, and it just doesn't weigh anything. It's amazing how light they can get that stuff.
We talked about that in our last time we talked about camping gears. I have some cups, titanium cups, but a water bottle. That's a great idea. Yeah, because Clean Canteen, they're moving more toward the consumer market, away from casual. They're going more to a casual, away from camping. So they don't. I couldn't find my particular bottle anymore, and they have a lot of these insulated bottles. So something like that might be in my future. So that's a good idea. You can get. I also like the. There are some plastic ones, bottles, the wide mouth. Oh, I forget what they're called. They have a name. Plastic bottles. Those are good for, like, if I need to have extra supplies of water with me that I'm not drinking from that. I'm using that for camping, for cooking, or that sort of thing, or just to replenish my drinking water. So those can be good. Just make sure they have a tight lid.
Yeah, and those can be good storage containers too. So one thing, you don't have to store water in them, especially with the wide mouth. You can put gear in them that you need to stay dry. So if you have a map or something like that that you need to keep dry for an extended period of time when it's raining, just shove it in that wide mouth bottle, seal it up, and then the next time you find a water source, take it out, put your map back wherever you need it, and then fill it back up with whatever water source you have.
They can be good for food too, like granola or other cereals, or stuff like that to pour in there.
Absolutely.
So you could also there are also water bags. These are especially good if you're car camping. They're bigger, and they fill up, and you can carry the bag from wherever, say a faucet, to your campsite. I have something called an Aquatainer. It's a 5-gallon water jug that it gets heavy. 5 gallons of water is heavy. Pints a pound the world around, so that's a lot of pints. That's a lot of pounds. So but it's really useful around camp to have, because it's got a faucet on it, and you got a ready supply of water there. So I always enjoy having something like that.
Yeah, those are good to make wash stations too. If you have because you don't always have running water, so if you just fill them up, and then you've got that faucet there to be able to run water over things that you need to clean. Yep. And it can be really, really useful for that, for hand washing, especially before meals. Right.
If you get a water bag, you can actually hang it in a tree and do that too. Yep.
Right.
How about water purifiers? I don't have a water purifier. I never go that far from real, good water source myself.
Boiling water is always going to be your best bet.
Yeah.
And if you're going to be somewhere where you're far enough away from any kind of ability to get clean water, there are pump filtration systems that you can carry with you that are really lightweight, that work really well. I recommend those over things like the life straw is all right. Yeah. But the problem is that it's impractical in a lot of ways just because of how it works. So you want either a pump or a gravity fed filtration system. And there are some out there. I don't know enough about them to be able to recommend them other than to say those are the two kinds of things you want to really look for.
Right. Some of the pump ones, they come with attachments, so you can attach it directly to certain Nalgene bottles. That's the word I was looking for before, Nalgene, or certain brands of hydration bladders or whatever. But they come with attachments, so you can connect it right to it. So that's really useful. If you think you're gonna, but I think for most people, if you're just starting out, you don't really need a water filter to get started.
If you're putting together an emergency survival kit, you're better off putting together something like iodine tablets or
purification tablets. Yeah,
some kind of purification tablet is going to be your best bet.
So another thing this is less of a necessity and more of a comfort, and that is a camp chair. Now, we also have seen like the big chairs, like the fold-up chairs that we take out to the soccer game, the kids' soccer game. We sit on the sidelines. Those are big and bulky. There are portable camping chairs that fold down into small packages, and I've got one myself from a company called One Tigress, which is a great company, and they have a portable camping chair that folds down really good. The key thing is it holds up to 330 pounds, which is a lot more than I weigh. So just put that right out there. That's a lot more than I weigh. but it means that I can sit in it and not worry that it's going to collapse under me, halfway through a camping trip. And then I'm not looking for stumps or, a log to sit on, or sitting on the muddy ground, or, with all the bugs. So it's a really nice little option and you sit back and you relax in it. It's a nice little chair. There are other things as well you could check out.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. This thing's making me rethink what I'm saying, because it looks really like it folds down really well. I'm super impressed, like having looked at it. But there are tripod stools that you can get that are really effective, and they go all the way. They run the gamut of what they're capable of holding, but they're really not as uncomfortable as they seem. So if you get them, they're especially useful if you're running a campfire, because you can get close to the campfire without sitting back too far. And that's my big problem with camp chairs, is you end up sitting back so far in the camp chair that to do anything with the fire, you have to get up out of the chair, do something with the fire. Whereas with the tripod stools, you're sitting at an angle that's really useful to be able to get at the fire and then relax. And yes, you can't lean back and fall asleep in it, but if you're tending the fire, that's probably not a good idea anyway.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you're much more upright. It's an upright posture. You can kind of scooch forward a little bit on these chairs, but then you're kind of precariously perched, and that's not all that safe next to a fire. So these stools, and they're less expensive by and large. So that's not a bad idea, especially like for like for scouts camping, like to give them one of these. That would be a great idea, because our kids are always like, fighting. Frankly, I come back and I got kids sitting in my chair. Get out of my chair.
Right. and really, I mean, you're looking at these, especially for kids, you're looking at maybe $10. Like there are some that run right around $10 for these chairs.
Almost disposable, because they will break them no matter how good they are. So don't spend a lot on it. So let's talk a bit about bags, different kinds of bags. There are, we mentioned stuff sacks, which can be used for more than just, putting your sleeping bag in. You can put all kinds of gear, clothes, and other things in them. And then compression sacks, which have or stuff sacks, which have straps that allow you to get air out and really make things small. And then there's dry bags, which are often used if you're doing more like, say, water borne camping, like canoe camping or kayaking and that sort of stuff. They keep your gear pretty dry. But there's other kinds of things too. I have discovered, I always have, when I go out, I always have my phone with me. I have my keys, my glasses, my watch. And when I want to sleep at night, often this gear is all over the place. It's just, and tents often have these little pouches. They're never big enough to hold like my wallet and my keys. And so I went and got, I use this Eagle Creek packet sacks in my computer bag to organize my cables and things. And I realized this would work really well for camping. So I get one of these and I keep it in my backpack. And so at night, I open it up and I just shove all my stuff in it, my phone, my wallet, whatever, flashlight, glasses, and zip it up. And it's all together. It's not scattered throughout the tent. If I need it in the middle of the night, I know exactly where it is, that sort of thing. So they're inexpensive. I mean, it's not cheap. They're $15 for the medium size, or I think a large size is $15. I have the medium. The large is pretty big, so you probably get away with the medium. Like a large is 10 by 14. The medium is smaller than that, and so like probably $10. But it's like a mesh with a plastic inside, so it would actually I would say it's waterproof, but it's certainly water repellent in a sense. So think about some ways of organizing your gear inside your backpack, little packet cubes or things like that. That really is a great idea. Like, so all your underwear in one bag and all your socks in another bag, and also maybe a bag for your dirty clothes, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Especially if they get wet,
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
Yeah, if you have a mesh bag, it's really good. A mesh bag is just so generally useful. It's for hanging up your utensils to dry after you've washed them. If your clothes get wet, you put stuff in the mesh bag, you hang it off your pack, and you keep walking, and stuff dries out while you're walking. I cannot recommend a good mesh bag highly enough. And so it's just now they're inexpensive, so it's not like there's like a particular one to recommend, but find one that fits the needs that you have size wise. And it can be something as simple as like a laundry bag, right?
Yeah.
That just goes inside of a laundry basket and that. But those things are so useful for so many different things that different problems you're going to run into on the trail.
Right. Now, the last thing I want to mention for bags is a bear sack, or bear bag, or bear canister. And this really is highly regional dependent. This depends on what you have in your region. Although this is becoming more important where I live. We actually had a bear spotted in the next town over from me. I live like on the edge of Boston. Like that is wild. That is just wild. But a bear container is what you put all your food, every scrap of food that you could possibly have on you that a bear might think is good, including sunscreen and other things like that, in a bear canister, tied up in a tree. It goes up in a tree. The bears have not figured out how to untie these yet. They will eventually, but we'll have to figure something else out then. But hopefully we'll have hovering things by then. So it's a way of keeping your stuff safe from bears and other animals, raccoons and other stuff. Although I bet a raccoon's smart enough and handy enough to get those open.
Yeah. I think this is not going to protect you from a raccoon, but it's going to keep the bears from getting at your stuff.
Sneaky little raccoons, trash pandas. So that's all I have. Anything else from that you, Thomas? On
no, I think that's good. I think the most important thing, because we're talking about longer camping trips here, we're talking about really getting out there, and I think the most important thing is to know where you're going and to be prepared for it.
Yeah.
There's a German parable that I've started to live by, which is there's no such thing as bad weather, just a bad wardrobe. And that is exceptionally true when it comes to camping. There's no such thing as a bad camping experience, just a bad set of gear that went along with you.
Right. You can survive and even have a good time in any weather if you're adequately prepared. And that's the key. All right. So that's all fun. And again, it's not our traditional, computers and a microchip sort of technology, but I hope you all enjoyed our discussion of this, and maybe if you've been thinking about going camping, give it a shot. It's a lot of fun. If you have kids, think about Scouts. Scouts is if you got a good troop near you, that can be a great experience for your kids. Boys and girls are in the BSA nowadays, so you can check it out. And if you have other questions about camping gear, camping technology, let us know, and we'll address it in a future episode. So let's move on to our patrons. I want to thank our patrons who make this show possible for the Secrets of Technology, including Donald F., Paige K., Tiffany F., John S., and Randy L. Their generous donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue the Secrets of Technology and all the shows at StarQuest. You can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give. So let's talk about a few headlines we get this week. We actually do have some tech headlines. This first one's kind of a funny one. It's from a publication called Motherboard, it's Vice, and within it is something called Motherboard. So Vice is the larger company, Motherboard is the particular website. Anyway, it's not really important. The headline is Vatican offers and mysteriously rescinds interview about the Pope's metaverse plans. And it's a long story. It's kind of a weird story about how the Vatican was going to be developing an NFT, non-fungible token gallery that would give people an opportunity to experience the church's vast wealth of cultural, art and all these other things in a new way using Web3 and all the other buzzword stuff. And but the story is about how Motherboard kept trying to get an interview with the Vatican spokesman and kept getting put off until finally they canceled it. And that's it. Like, including a brief tangent into NBA trades that didn't go well. Like, it was just the strangest article. But what do you think?
It's almost like they don't understand that there's other stuff going on that's probably a little more important to the the church.
Right. And I mean, it kind of, to me, it's a little symbolic of the whole NFT thing, which is it's all this hype and smoke and mirrors. And so far, it's more smoke and mirrors than substance. And every time I see a major reputable institution talk about getting into NFTs, I'm thinking, oh, please don't sully yourself with that.
It's back to the and really the whole Bitcoin boom and the cryptocurrencies in general. It's just, I don't know. It's so shady.
Yes.
Just from the ground up, it's so shady. And I love the concept of cryptocurrencies. So I'm not a naysayer in the huge sense, but the amount of money that's changing hands on this stuff is just mind-bogglingly bad to me.
Yes. I saw a report that said that something on the order of like it might even be more, $9 billion worth of scams. People lost $9 billion of cryptocurrency in various scams over the past few years. $9 billion. It might even been more. It might have been even double digits. I mean, there's and a lot of that wasn't even necessarily quote unquote real money. It was the crypto. So it wasn't fiat currency, that sort of stuff yet. It's worth so much. So it's like, I mean, so some organization called Sensorium, a Switzerland-based metaverse company, hooked up with a nonprofit NGO called Humanity 2.0, which is an official Vatican initiative of some sort, and convinced them that this would be their entry into the really hip new way of connecting with those kids through NFTs. And I think it's been put off. It's been, probably because of the whole collapse of the whole cryptocurrency NFT marketplace, and which is probably just as well, because it's kind of silly.
The church moves slow, and there are times where this is exactly why, right? Like,
yes.
We didn't get on the front of this train because we're waiting for the train to make sense before we actually board.
Right.
So
I
will say that one of the things that I think here is really interesting is that we could use technology a little more creatively in the way that we deal with some of the things. I think a church tour based on QR codes is something that I would love to see. Like, just a little QR code by the tabernacle that you scan it and it gives you a brief explanation, maybe even USCCB level explanation of what a tabernacle is.
Right.
And, there's something by the AMBO that does the same thing. So when you're doing a church tour, you can have people interact with it in a way that's not just here's the AMBO, but maybe other examples of the AMBO, and maybe even a discussion about where these things belong in the church, because that's something it's incredible, the amount of detail that goes into creating a sanctuary space for a church.
Yep.
And the character that a particular church has versus the one down the street that does things completely differently. They might have the tabernacle directly behind the altar rather than off to the side, or, all of these little things that they mean something. And that's the thing that I think gets lost so much, because even when you're giving a church tour, you know your church maybe, but you don't necessarily know the story of why the sanctuary's put together the way it is.
Right. And, you know, the QR codes could link to things like even like videos and, you know, Bishop Robert Barron explaining the history of tabernacles, or of this particular saint that we have a statue of, or, you know, that sort of thing. And especially in churches that have any kind of history, they don't have to be like historic, you know, Washington, D.C. churches. Could be just an interesting church with a history in this town. It's been in this town for 100 years. That sort of thing would be. I was pushing that in my own parish some time ago, and still I think that's a great idea. So one of the things that the thing that's really stood out to me in this article, the motherboard reporter, was one of the things they wanted to ask was, the papal spokesman, is the metaverse covered by the same moral strictures as the universe from which it's distinct? It's not distinct. The metaverse is not a separate universe. It is no more so than, you know, talking on the telephone is somehow distinct from talking to someone face to face from a moral viewpoint. You know, you're still the same people living in the same universe, just communicating through a different tool. That's all. So
yeah. That's interesting though, because like, you know, if you think about video games, there's we do things in video games that we definitely would not hold, you know, morally standard.
Well, but you're not actually doing them.
Right. You're not actually doing them, and you're not actually doing them to another person. It's like avatars that are there. Right. And then I think where you can draw the difference between those lines is that chatter that happens after the game, or the stupid stuff that people do that infuriates everyone because they're, you know, like running around insulting someone's mother and, you know,
Leroy Jenkins.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. But I think you can differentiate between the two things, where it's like, yes, this is a new space, but it's still interacting with people. And that the point of that is that we hold the person to be important enough that regardless of where we're interacting with them, we treat them like a person.
Well, that actually is a really great lead-in, a segue into our next headline, which is the headline is Technoblade, a popular Minecraft YouTuber, dies from cancer at age 23 and shares a final video. Now, if you're like me and you don't have kids who are into Minecraft, or you're not into Minecraft yourself, you might not know who Technoblade is, but he was a YouTuber who was immensely popular, had millions of subscribers, and was I watched some of his videos after reading about this, and he was anonymous. He didn't share his real name, you know, or anything like that. Mm-hmm. Well, it turned out he had cancer and died at the age of 23, and left behind this really affecting video that his dad, like he left a message to his fans that his dad read, and then his dad gave a little bit of a reflection. And I was thinking, like, this is very interesting because kids make it, like, people, we make connections. He's not just some YouTube stars aren't just celebrities far away for a lot of people. Mm-hmm. They're not like someone on a movie screen, an actor. I think there's a much greater connection that people feel with these YouTubers. It feels much more personal. And so for a lot of these kids, losing this guy suddenly is much bigger deal, and this is a real human person who's died. So what did you think of this? Did your kids know him?
Yeah, actually, one of my kids is an aspiring Minecraft YouTuber. So he just turned 13, and that was my structure for him was you have to be 13 because that's how old you have to be to have a YouTube account.
Yep.
But at that point, you can start recording and uploading things, and I'm fine with that. But you do need to maintain your anonymity, so you're going to go by a name wherever you can. You probably want to try and use your avatar instead of taking video of yourself. So we've had to have some talks about it. But you know, so he started doing his research, and he started going online and finding these guys that were doing what I was saying, you know, were the limits of where I wanted him to be. And Techno was one of them, where he was, you know, he only ever had his avatar on screen, which was this pig with a crown on it. And so it was great. And he's funny. He's a funny guy. Oh, yeah. He's, you know, I think that's one of the big things that I'm trying to teach him is like, it's hard to do what these guys do, where not only are they playing the game, but they're narrating it in an entertaining way, so that even if you don't play Minecraft, you can watch them play and laugh about the stuff that's going on, and
Yes.
get the jokes that are happening. And then he did crazy stuff like he I think it was Minecraft that he beat using the steering wheel from like a racing game.
Oh
So
wow!
that was
Use that as
that
his
was
controller.
He had to use that as his controller, and so he was a fun guy. He was really neat, and so my son had just actually gotten into his stuff last year in learning about him. And when this came up, he was at camp. So when he got back, we pulled him aside and talked to him about it. And somebody had already told him at camp. But yeah, it was a big deal for him. So we got him a sweatshirt that has the So Long Nerds on it, because that was
Nice.
that was Techno's kind of catchphrase to end his videos.
Right.
But yeah, I would. There are a couple of YouTubers that I follow, Minecraft and otherwise, that
Yep.
I would be really affected if they passed,
Sure.
especially because it would be unexpected. There was actually one that did. He started the channel called King of Random, and he passed a few years back now, and it was surprising because he was very young, and it was the same kind of thing where he had a chronic illness that ended up taking him. But it's interesting because you do get really connected to these people, and they are letting you into some portion of their life that you're matching with them on, and that's why you got to their channel in the first place, because it's stuff you're interested in.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason you stuck around was because they keep talking about the stuff that you're interested in, and so you keep doing more of that stuff and getting more interested in it, and it's this back and forth.
Right.
That even when they're not talking directly to you, you do feel some community with them in that.
I think we do form real connections to people. These aren't just like sometimes we people will put down like, oh, social media friends are not real friends, or I mean, I haven't been in the same room with a lot of people I do podcasts with. I've never been in the same room with Jimmy Aiken or Father Andrew Kinstetter. We've been in the same room,
right? But because of social media, and
right,
that's why we ended up being in the same room, right?
Right. I mean, these are real connections that we make with people, and in all of life is present now in these things: birth, marriage, death now, and I think it's important to keep in mind. And it, as a parent, as my kids get out there and start to take part, to partake of these various things, I think it's important to keep them, grounded. Like, these are real people. They're not just images on a screen, that there are real people behind these avatars, and things can happen to them, and they can also do things. And so it's important to keep that in mind, and that whatever you see on screen is never all of who that person is.
Right.
There's always more to who that person is than what they let you see, on the screen, wherever that is.
Yeah. And then a lot of times they're playing a character, and that's something, that's something that I think is really interesting to kids, and learning about these figures. That same son, who's the YouTuber, he's very much into Mr. Beast, and that's a highly contentious character on YouTube. But the more I've watched of him and who he is and who he portrays himself to be, it's interesting. It's a modern take on philanthropy that is weird, and we scratch our heads about it sometimes, but he's got a good heart. And I think that's the thing to remember, is that a lot of these guys, they get this platform, they get this money, and they don't understand how they got the money.
Right.
And they're trying to do the best they can by themselves and everybody they know, and that leads to them, learning about how to give things away. And that's such an interesting thing to watch unfold.
Yeah. I mean, like, we talked with Jeff Geerling last time, and, about as a YouTuber and, gaining his audience. There are there are YouTubers out there who I think are worthy of, like, I don't have a problem my kids getting to know them. Mark Rober is a huge YouTuber, he's super into education and, being excited about the world around us. I was like that. Smarter Every Day.
Smarter Every Day
is
oh, you're getting into my crew right there.
Yeah. His name slips my mind. I'm terrible with names, but Destin.
Oh shoot. Yeah, there you go.
Destin Smart Every Day, all about science, super excited about things. My kids love watching his videos. He just did a thing with Prince Rupert's Drops, which are just really awesome. But even like Townsend, which is a guy who does colonial era like reenacting, and he does recipes and food of the era. Super educational, super nice guy. He's one of the nicest people you can meet, at least what we see on screen. I mean, he could be,
right,
like we say, what they reveal. But I don't have a problem with what he reveals himself to be, and my kids seeing that. So there is a lot of good stuff out there. We've talked about this before, I guess. In fact, we talked about it with Jeff. But it's one of those things. Like life and death is part. It's even there on YouTube. So if it's okay, I want to skip our next headline and go right to the last one, because I don't want to I don't want to miss this one, because we just both of us shake our heads. The headline is BMW sells heated seat feature as an $18 a month subscription. So here's how it works. You buy your $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 car that comes with heated seats. If you want to use the heated seats, then you have to give BMW an additional $18 a month so that the feature will turn on. Yes, this is the world we're moving into, the subscription revenue world. It's gone from apps where if you want to be able to play the app and win, you have to pay to play. Now it's pay to drive in comfort.
You can't. There is a purchase option, so it's like $415 for unlimited access. So you can. But just the fact that there is a DRM feature in your car, it blows my mind. And that it's a BMW of all things.
Of all things, right. Yeah, I mean, Tesla has had a few features of its own that are subscription based. You pay and you get, some auto drive additional features and stuff like that. And I think they kind of opened the door on that. And a lot of these companies are looking at it and saying, well, maybe we can, in one sense, a lot of these additional add-on options are expensive, and when you're buying a car, maybe you're looking at the totality of the price, you're saying, I can't really afford all that up right now. And then later on you go, I kind of wish I had those heated seats. This is the way of getting it, I guess.
That's how they get you, man. That's how they get you.
I'm trying to put the best shine on it that I can.
We're slowly moving towards a Philip Dick style dystopia where you have to put a nickel into your door every time you want to open it, and just like it's horrible. See, here's the thing that really bothers me. I get Tesla, okay, like if you're paying for a feature that is getting updates, that's a computer-based feature that needs consistent programming and adjustments, things like that. That's one thing. I'm fine. I can see paying extra for that. What is really changing about these heated seats that they're limiting your use?
Well, nothing. They're in your car and they turn on and off. Right.
That's it. So like this is clearly just a money grab. Like 100%. Just and what they're going to say is, well, no, it makes the car cheaper because now we've put this item in and it makes it cheaper so that if you don't want the seats, you don't have to purchase the seats. And my argument there is, then just make the car cheaper and don't put the seats in, and then actually make the car cheaper. Don't put the heated seats in, just leave them out.
Right. This is what car makers have done for ages. They have option packages. If you want the high end option, you can buy it. If you can't afford it, we will sell it to you without that. The thing is it's all software that's blocking it. Somebody's hacking this right now. Somebody's got a Raspberry Pi hooked up to a BMW hacking this stuff open.
But then it voids your warranty, and then you're in all sorts of trouble.
Well, right.
Because that's the next thing they're going to do. Is I know we've got some issues coming up where we're talking about right to repair and stuff like that. That's really what's happening here. Is like, yes, you can hack it, but as soon as you hack these seats, your powertrain warranty is null and void because we can't know what you did. What else you hacked, and that's like those two things are not comparable at all.
Yeah,
but
and it's not the only subscription. There are other things you can subscribe to. Heated steering wheels for $12 a month, an option to record footage from your car's cameras, that's $235 for unlimited use, unlimited of course, and the Iconic Sound Sport package, which lets you play engine sounds in your car for a one-time fee of $117. If you're gonna pay that, you almost deserve what you get.
I had to look at the date on this article like 3 times to make sure it wasn't an April Fool's joke.
Man, I guess I'm not a BMW owner. That's the long and short of it. I'll never be able to afford one anyway. So, in any case, so that's our headlines. Let's move on to our picks of the week, and I'm going to let you go first. What is your pick this week?
So my pick this week is, we're talking about people getting into camping. I want to give you a name you're going to remember for hammock camping. So if you're interested in hammock camping, we talked a little bit about it in the last episode and kind of coming back to it this time. I love this company. They make great gear on the cheap. So it's really cheap gear that's good. It's lasted.
Good quality.
I've used it quite a bit and it still works. I've let my kids use it. 13 and 14-year-olds have used it and they haven't ruined it. So it must be doing its job right. This is for hammock camping gear. So for all the stuff you need for your hammock, your bug net, your quilts, things like that, bearbuttteam.com. And I have them from back when the logo was still actually a bear's butt. Now it's just a little trapezoidal box.
Bear as in the animal, not as in naked butt. So it's bear butt, B-U-T-T. Okay.
Yeah.
I look at it like, so I have Eno hammocks and they're probably twice as expensive as these, but these look really good. And they have some really interesting bits of gear on their site, but apart from the hammocks, like something called the snake skin, which is a really interesting idea where when you're away from your hammock during the day, well, you've got your campsite and you're away from your hammock. What if it rains? Well, your hammock gets soaked. Well, this is basically a bag that kind of a sleeve that you pull out in the morning, pull out and cover your hammock to keep it dry. I'm like, wow, that is such a great little idea. That clearly people who camp and use hammocks
and use the equipment. Yep, exactly.
Yeah. That is such a great idea. I like it. It looks good. They also have a hammock gear sling, so like you can someplace gear off the ground. That's one of the problems with hammocks is where do you put your bag? Your your camping bag, that sort of thing. I mean your backpack. Yeah.
And then my favorite part about this is that you can it's piecemeal. So you don't buy a hammock camping solution. You buy your hammock. Get used to it, get used to how you're going to use it, and then go, okay, yeah, I really need a mosquito net. I need a bug net. So I'm going to go buy a bug net. Okay, yeah, I need a rain fly for this next trip that I'm going to take. Okay, I'll buy a rain fly this time. Yeah. And their gear's good. It is just really good, top quality gear.
Awesome. Really cool. So my pick is also camping related, and this is a very simple, inexpensive, and clever little bit of tech. It's the Coleman Digital Fuel Gauge, and the way this works is it's a little plastic knob. It kind of looks like a thumb drive, right? A little bit bigger. It's got a digital screen on it, and what it does is it attaches to the top of a Coleman a propane canister. The Coleman stove has those little green bottles that you use. So you attach them to a lantern or various things like that. And one of the things about them is it's hard to tell how full or empty they are. It's like, oh my gosh, it's like I just got this out. I brought it with me all the way to the campsite and it's almost empty. What was the point of that? Such a waste. Well, what this does is they know exactly how much their bottles weigh empty. So what it does is it basically you clip it onto the to the top, the threads on the top, and you hold it, by the loop at the top, and it weighs the bottle and subtracts the weight of the bottle itself and tells you how much propane is in it, which is, I think, a clever idea.
It's brilliant.
It's brilliant. And they make them for a couple different brands. Benzomatic has propane canisters, and so there's different ones too. But yeah. What a great little thing to keep in your pack and just to use. So
that I'm gonna buy one because I did not know this existed. Yeah, and this is fantastic because I cannot tell you how many times I've ended up somewhere with a half empty tank or completely empty tank. Sometimes you're like, oh, it feels right.
Yeah. It's like it's slosh. Yeah, I'd say that's probably 3/4 full. No, it's 1/4 full. That's you just didn't know it. You're a terrible judge of how much it weighs. That's me. I'm a terrible judge of how much it weighs. So yeah, this is it will save your bacon if you use the propane, the Coleman propane green bottles at all. Awesome. All right. So that was a long show we did go on a bit, but I think it was a good show. I had a lot of fun talking about this stuff. I mean, camping nuts. We love to talk about gear, and so we'll talk about it all the time. Yeah, maybe we should have a camping podcast. Anyway, I don't have time for that.
Too many of them. Don't. Yeah.
I know.
No more suggestions.
We'll maybe we'll just revisit camping in this podcast
There you go.
from time to time when there's new interesting gear to talk about. Anyway, that's it from us for this time. We would love to hear what you think of our discussion. You can let us know by commenting on the show at sqpn.com/technology or the StarQuest Facebook page, facebook.com/StarQuestMedia. You can send an email to technology@sqpn.com or visit the StarQuest Discord community at sqpn.com/Discord. And you'll find links from our discussion and our picks of the week on our show notes at sqpn.com. Remember to like The Secrets of Tech wherever you see it on Facebook, retweet us on Twitter where we're at SQPN, and leave us comments wherever. We'd love to talk to you wherever we can run into you online. We'd like to thank James for research assistance in this episode. And until next time, Thomas Sanderho, thank you for joining me and sharing the secrets of technology.
It's been great.
And once again, I'm Dom Bettinelli. Thank you for listening to the Secrets of Technology on StarQuest.